Think of this as a kind of a seance. It's just you and me here. Just you and me, and I'm going to tell you a story. I'll sing you a story. And in these songs dwell the spirits of folks who lived and are gone. And with the singing of these songs, the spirits present and inhabit the room. So I ask you not to applaud or in any audible fashion respond to any part of this until the very end. Until I exit the stage and the curtain closes behind me, lest you spook the spooks and chase them from here back to, well, there. Somewhere back about 50 years ago, back in the mid-70s, one day I had this story kind of came to me. It came to me complete with details, people's names, stuff like that, emotions, smells, sounds. I could still hear the sounds of people speaking, crying, shots being fired. I could feel the cold air on my face, feel the feel of a gun in my hand. It was the story of a man. His name was John Lane, and he lived in a small town somewhere in the Virginias, I think. It was during the time of the American Civil War. And this story begins at a point in time when the war had not yet had any direct effect upon this little town. The people of the town, for the most part, had no particular interest, political interest in the war, didn't share any cause with the North or with the South. They were really only interested in the peaceful job of living and enjoying their community, a peaceful job of living. But the war was encroaching, threatening to disrupt that peacefulness. And this young man, John Lane, somehow got an idea, maybe came up with it himself, or maybe overheard some of the older folks talking, but he got this idea that maybe he and a bunch of the young men from around the town could go off and fight the war. Not fight the North or fight the South, but fight the war itself. Try to keep it away from their little town. Now, the details of how they might have gone about this are vague. Maybe they actually changed uniforms, fighting one side and then the other, back and forth, somehow guiding the battlefront away from their town. Maybe they fed bad intelligence to the captains and generals on both sides. Maybe in the end they met with some success. My guess would be that if either side had caught on to what these men were doing, the Union and Confederate armies would have jointly rounded them up and shot them summarily so the Blues and the Grays could carry on slaughtering each other, unfettered by faulty allegiances and in some sort of orderly fashion, while continuing incidentally to lay devastation to anything that got in the path of the fight. Well, during the years from 1975 to 1981, I wrote a series of songs about this man, John Lane, following him from the day he rode off to war until the day he died some years after the war had ended. These songs followed the career of one man and didn't examine the strategies of battle, the effect or lack of effect of the Civil War on this one town. I like to imagine that these boys did what they set out to do and that their little town was exactly the same after the war as it had been before. The story of this town may be elsewhere told. My songs tell the story of this man who went to war and learned how to handle a gun and how his life turned out as a result. I might have been John Lane, or I might have been Maggie, or maybe I was Daniel Perry, or maybe I was the sheriff who went looking for him, or maybe I was someone else, a reporter who wrote the story for some newspaper and is telling it yet, even now in the next life, and the next. John Lane had never carried a gun before, but he put one on the day he rode to war. Him and half a dozen other boys. Him and Billy took the lead, with Ragged Joe from up north, the son of the dry goods merchant, was the fourth man. All bravado, thinking guns were toys. Well, John Lane had never kissed a lady before, but he did on the day that he rode off to war. And he whispered something in her ear. Her name was Louise, and Louise started to cry. But John Lane said, please, so she handed him the tie that held back her chestnut hair. John Lane, John Lane, John Lane, John Lane. As he rode off, he tied it round his head. First day in battle, John's younger brother Billy died. Ragged Joe stayed close by John Lane's side, and they kept to the cover of the trees. Underneath his hat, he kept that scarf around his head. He claimed it brought him luck and accounted for the fact he wasn't dead. And he said it still smelled like Louise. The news drifted back that young Billy Lane was dead. But John still had that scarf around his head. And that ragged Joe had quit drinking. They said John never used a rifle, but he was mighty good with a handgun. Said he had a way about him, almost made it look like fun. He just lifted it and fired without thinking. John Lane, John Lane, John Lane, John Lane. That ain't the last we'll see of him, the town folks said. Winter coming on, the air took on a chill. John and the boys were settled up on top of a hill, that it was their job to defend. Meanwhile, sweet Louise had been untrue. A lone rider made it through one night with the hometown news. She says she don't expect to see you again. So John sat and waited till the middle of the night. And he made it out on foot without a fight. Stole a horse and rode on home. Was a 2-day ride. The third night brought him to town. He went into Louise's house after waiting till she wasn't around. And he left the scarf on a chair in her living room. John Lane, John Lane, John Lane, John Lane. Now his whole life was in his gun. He returned to battle, survived all that was in store. He lost track of Ragged Joe after the war. He tried to go home, but he couldn't stay. His reputation seemed to follow him around. There was always someone waiting to face him down. But he handled himself okay. John Lane, John Lane, John Lane, John Lane. Lived alone and on the run. He came down off the mountain. He was homesick and sore. In the town he dismounted. He was home from the war. Peace and quiet was all he wanted. See some friends that he'd once known. But on the street he was confronted by young Amos Brown. Put it down, put that gun away, put it down, Amos, he cried. But Amos Brown drew on him anyway, and Amos Brown died. Sister Mary, she was praying over Amos on the ground, and the wind and someone crying were the only other sounds. Or was it money, or was it love made Amos do what he did? John Lane was just a soldier, and Amos Brown was just a kid. He rode slowly down the main street. He'd never seen it so quiet before. Silent faces stood watching from their windows and their doors. Would they talk and tell the story that would keep him on the run? How Amos Brown came looking for glory, and he found it in John Lane's gun. Put it down, put that gun away, put it down, Amos, he cried. But Amos Brown drew on him anyway, and Amos Brown died. Amos Brown died. You know what I like, he said to his friend as he shuffled the deck for another hand. I like rye, so pour me a double, son. I like women that ain't being troublesome. Cause trouble's never far behind. I ain't never hard to find. Man walks up and makes a play. I shot one more man today. Well, his name was Jack, some say Jake. I believe his last name was Blake. Well, I aimed high and I let it fly. Jake got a bullet in his eye. I don't know why I can't outrun them. Glory seekers keep on coming. So ante up, cut the deck, put your money down on a one-eyed Jack. Oh, by the way, my name's Lane. First name's John, if it's all the same. And I just drew a one-eyed Jack, so I'll just take my money back. Now, son, I know that your name's Blake, and you used to have a brother, Jake. And I see trouble in your eyes, but I tell you, son, it just ain't wise. 'Cause trouble's never far behind, and I ain't never hard to find. Man walks up and makes a play. I shot one more man today. Your eyes are focused on the past as you sit your horse like a statue carved from stone. The trees and you are dripping rain as you ride down into the valley off the mountain. Now you never could explain it, this feeling like you're never gonna be shot down. Still there's something about a rainy day makes you wanna turn away from this here town. Well, luck and you've been partners, seems like, right from the very start. And you never clearly understood how it is you hit them in the dark. Gunfighter rides into town on a drizzling afternoon. People stand and watch you from the doorways. You stay relaxed, you're ready now. It could all be over soon. But if it goes your way, then you live one more day. I've been in town almost a week and no one's made a play. Think I'll settle in this town. Think I'll settle in this town. I fell in love with a girl last night that I met yesterday. Think I'll settle in this town. think I'll settle in this town. Oh, there's a dry goods store, smithy too, and a saloon. Think I'll settle in this town. Think I'll settle in this town. Yeah, the sheriff's gun ain't loaded and he eats with a spoon. Think I'll settle in this town. Think I'll settle in this town. I met an old friend in town last night. He says he's on the go. Looks as though he's done fairly well. We fought together in the war. We called him Ragged Joe. And what he does now, he wouldn't tell. Oh, this here town's exactly what I've been looking for. I can walk into the street and people don't run for their doors. Think I'll settle in this town. He said, Linda, please let go of my shirt. Please don't look so hurt. Please stop crying into your skirt. You're making me feel like dirt. She said, John, stop reaching for your gun. How can this be fun? Why did you lead me on? You should have told me you were on the run. He said, Linda, you just don't understand. I'm not a wanted man. But Jason Locke has called my hand. And she said, fine, then you can forget all our plans. 'Cause I can't sit still tonight and listen to your boots disappearing down the walk, and trust God will keep you all right in a gunfight with Jason Locke. Jason says, John, you're very much a fool. You still got time to quit. You see, I intend to break the golden rule, because I'm going to live and you'll be dead in a minute. He says, John, I ain't about to die. There's never been a scrap of doubt. And John says, Jason, you were always one to lie. And you're a man this world can do without. Jason says, John, look around at the town. Folks have gathered on the walk, and they're here to see John Lane go down in a gunfight with Jason Locke. The doctor says, John, Jason Locke is dead. He's in my office on the bed. Was quite a mess the way he bled. just dug out the piece of lead. John says, Doc, did Jason try to speak? Or was he too weak? Last night, when you helped him up to his feet and led him away from the street, doctor says, John, Jason did say something strange. I got him to my office and I told him not to talk, but he said, Doc, now I see why John Lane would call a gunfight with Jason Locke. Oh, well, John, if you'll let me buy you a beer, it seems to me that you may want to talk. It's not so much that I really want to hear about your gunfight with Jason Locke. I just thought that you might want to talk. You know, the crow, the way he walked, pigeon-toed, made him look real strange. Remember how the people talked when he went out calling John Lane? You know, the crow was pretty fast, but he was crazy playing Lane. Nice career, but it wouldn't last. The crow would never play again. The snow was falling all that day when John Lane finally faced the crow. He let the crow begin his play and put him down at a foot of snow. The crow kept falling straight to hell when his body hit the frozen ground. The preacher rang his passing bell, but the passing bell didn't make a sound. John Lane let his vision rise up above the bloody scene. A face he seemed to recognize. Was it Satan smiling? He muttered something in his beard. It's like his words were hiding. And then without another word, he was on his horse and riding. Oh, John Lane, where you going? Don't you know that it's been snowing day and night? The wind's been blowing. Where you going, John Lane? He's going out to square a debt. Him and Satan placed a bet, and the devil's probably running yet. Running away from John Lane, down to where there ain't no snow, down to where there ain't no sun. Up again and on you go. Keep that devil on the run. Chase that devil day by day, through the hills and through the towns. Chase him till he makes a play, and you can face the devil down. Oh, John Lane, where you going? Don't you know that it's been snowing day and night? The wind's been blowing. Where you going, John Lane? I've carried a gun all of these years since the day I rode to war, and every town where I've been in a fight, you were there the day before. Left a day later, counting the winnings. We fought side by side in the blue uniform. You always said I was good with a gun, but I'd never thought that after the war you'd be around, having your fun, setting up fights from the beginning. Oh, I looked up that day and I spotted your face after gunning down the crow. You were smiling down behind a curtain lace at the street, covered with snow, spotted with blood, counting your money. I'll not be held in someone's hand to be played like an ace. I'm gonna watch you die, and then I see here a chance to retire to some quiet place. I'll let you draw first. Isn't it funny? Say your prayers, Ragged Joe. I'm gonna watch you bleed out in the dirt. I don't care if it's quick or slow, and it's gonna hurt, Ragged Joe. It's gonna hurt. And now, 140 some years later, 3 lifetimes later, I can still smell the smell of the pines, curse the soreness where my body meets the saddle, taste the taste of corn liquor mixing with the ice melting off my whiskers, still see the silhouette of a rider approaching, still feel the feel of a gun in my hand, where there is no gun. Margaret Hale said she'd never marry, so society was shocked when she became Margaret Perry. Even after all her talk, she was raised outside of Richmond on a plantation owned by her parents, but with marriage moved into town above the street into a tenement. She had the face of the Queen of Diamonds and a body like a violin and eyes like tropical islands and a voice like the whispering wind. John Lane had entered the Civil War, just another faded young man, and emerged after 3 years or more, a celebrated gunman. All his many ragged years, he battled the elements till he bested a gunman's fears and found his retirement. He went off and built himself a home on some land out in Virginia, where younger men would leave him alone, and he came to terms with what he had been. He took a trip to Richmond, and he brought home a wife, but in doing so it seems he'd upset another man's life. Well, they moved in, took up tending house where John had hung up his pistol, and they saved for 7 long years to take a trip to San Francisco. They returned some weeks later, cheerful enough, glad to be home. And on the stage early next morning came a stranger riding alone. Daniel Perry was a foreigner. You could tell by his accent. He seemed certain of what he was looking for. He was direct and spared no expense. He went straight to the stable and he bought himself a mare. He rode tall, all dressed in black, and carried his gun like he did not care. While John was up on his rooftop, a hammer in his hand. when a rider appeared against the sun, a solitary man who dismounted and went in the back door. John dropped his nails and his tar. A single shot sounded below. Then the stranger was standing in the yard. He said, "I just gunned down your lover. I shot her in the face. And if you'll kindly come down here and face me, then I can finish and be gone from this place." John was already standing. He put on his shirt and his vest. He descended the ladder to the ground and turned, and the bullet hit him in the chest. Like a tall tree, full grown, like a tall tree cut down, like a tall tree, full grown, like a tall